This episode is proudly supported by the new Capital Food Market Canberra, where you can explore the very best producers, artisans, fresh food providores and hospitality venues of the region. Here's Alex Royds from La Cheeserie.
I do live in Belconnen, so it's my local market, so I'm excited to offer that. The way that it's looking to me, it's going to be like the go-to market in Canberra.
For more information, go to capitalfoodmarket.com.au or visit the markets and feed your curiosity.
And I try and explain this to our apprentices, but it's to give the consumer the confidence to cook it. Like, we can sell them the best pork chop. If you don't cook it right, it's not going to turn out right. So it's just about giving that consumer the confidence to say, hey, this is the best way to do it. This is the way I like it. How do you like it?
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Many people agree that bacon possesses one of the most alluring aromas and eating experiences on the planet, but how do you make the world's best? For Luke Jensen at Meat Cellar in Toowoomba, Queensland, it's all about decades on the tools and a collaborative work environment. Luke, how are you?
Very well. Anthony, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to get you on the show. What's it feel like producing the world's best bacon?
It was surreal. Like, we literally just sent our products over to say, right, well, this will be the benchmark for years to come on how we can improve. And that's what we're always looking to do with these competitions, is how can we improve the products for the consumers. And when we come back with the win, it was like, wow, we're pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about the competition and what the judges sort of said about your bacon.
Well, so the competition, it came out, it was like, I think it was about 8 or 9 months prior to the actual judging, and we had to send it over to London. So to get all that sort of paperwork and all that involved, and we literally just received an email. I had a look through it and thought, yep, rightio, we'll give this a go. Like, what have we got to lose? And just the array of judges that they had, like, I think they had over 40 judges that, you know, I mean, they looked at, so they had producers there that looked at the type of pork or beef or whatever species you had. And then they had chefs on how it cooked, and then they had like German master butchers on how it was cured and the process of it all, which was really great. And to come away with the win was absolutely fantastic.
Tell us a little bit about your bacon. What makes it so special?
Well, people ask me that all the time, and there's not really one thing that makes it special. Like, yes, we have a great relationship with our local piggery, and they're like, I think they're a 4th or 5th generation pig farmers. So, you know, I mean, they've got their craft down to the like nth degree of how they do things, and like that's, and when you've got a starting point like that, it makes our job a hell of a lot easier. And then we literally, and like, because I work with a master butcher down in Sydney on how to improve our products, and I said to him, I said, look, because he was offering all these other things that, and I thought, I just said to him, I said, I just want to keep it as natural and as, because he didn't want us to use honey, which we use to take the harshness out of the salt harshness. And he said, we'll just use glucose. And I said, well, Horsh, I don't want to use that. I want to use natural local products, because that way you get the flavour of the region. And I think that's like the real difference is our honey changes throughout the year. And like our pork is very similar, like very consistent throughout the year, but it's all like our pig farm, it has its own feed program, so it controls everything, and which is all grown around our region, which I think that's what they do wonderfully in Europe and overseas, is they've got those 100, 200 year processes and breeds, which just makes their small goods and so much better than everyone else in the world, except for us with our bacon.
I want to get into hams and particularly Christmas hams a bit later on in the show. But you mentioned the local farmer. Tell us a little bit about the way your butchery works and the relationship you have with the local pig farmers.
So basically, we like every week we just have a standing order with our pigs. They get sent away from their farm, which is 50 kilometres from our shop. Unfortunately, because of the size of them, they have to send them a bit further to an abattoir that can handle that processing, which is a shame, but it is what it is. Like that the world of abattoirs are a very difficult world. So yeah, and then we receive them every Wednesday, fresh whole carcasses. We were trying carton pork at one stage, but it just doesn't have the same consistency and I suppose integrity that a whole pig carcass has, and like the girls, like it's all like the generation now, I think, which is the fourth generation coming through, they only had daughters, so it's all these daughters, and they're doing a wonderful, like just new ideas, and they're like keen to learn and get feedback from the butchers and the processors on, right, well, what's this doing? Why is it doing in this season? And like totally open-minded on the feedback that you give them, be it good, bad, ugly, whatever. They always try and improve their product.
What are you looking for from those pigs as they come through the door for all the various things that you utilise the pig for?
So what we like in our shop is a nice big eye of the loin. And that's what people seem like, customers now, they like to see that nice big bit of meat and with like a nice coverage of fat, but not excessive fat. And that's what our producers do really well, is they've worked their craft, and even down to the pat where the belly is nearly the same every single week. And it's just fantastic in the way in which they do it.
Well, I want to explore sort of what you're doing further along in the show, but take us back to when you were young. Where did you grow up, and what sort of role did food play for you?
So I grew up on a little hobby farm in a town called Southbrook, actually, and like mum and dad worked on the council. Mum was working she worked in the DPI for a little bit. She just did odd end jobs. And Dad had finished work, be home at 4:00, and you'd run around, you'd milk the cows, you'd feed the pigs, feed the chooks, do all that sort of jazz. And Dad always wanted to be self-sufficient, so we always had the home butcher come. And like butchering wasn't really on my radar as a kid, not even until I finished school, actually. So we always sort of ate our own, what we produced, we ate. Because Dad, like, I'm one of four kids, so it was single household income. Like, yeah, Mum and Dad did it tough, was what they told us, but we didn't know that. And like food was like every night we had meat and veg, and you just always hung out for Sunday night when it was just baked beans. So food didn't really play a big role in my early life. It wasn't until probably I'd been butchering for 8 to 10 years and I actually moved to Toowoomba, where I started to, like, I got exposed to other people and processes, and I thought, well, and like what really intrigued me about pork and curing of it is the science behind it, like what you can do to a piece of meat to turn it into this, and the process and the chemistry that needs to go through it. I just found that fascinating. And then further on down the path, after we bought the business, it was like, right, well, we need to, what are customers, consumers looking for, and that's when I really went on the hunt, and I reached out to Anthony Parish from Victor Churchill, and that was sort of that food journey of, well, this is what you can actually do in a butcher shop, and that led me down the road. Like, I'm a massive fan of Lennox Hastings, like the things that he does with food and fire, like nowhere like my wife and kids hate me cooking, but I just like to try that sort of stuff and go, right, well, what can, and it may seem a bit airy fairy, but like, you mean like fire and pork fat and all that sort of stuff, it just gives you something totally different in flavour wise, and like every time it's different, which is what I like.
Well, it doesn't sound airy fairy at all to me. I'm way down that path with you, mate. Um, where did you start? Sort of, tell us about your road into butchery. Why did you head into it, and what were those first sort of 8 years before that revelation? What was it like for you?
So, went to school in Pittsworth. All my friends, because we lived out of town, we always caught the bus home, and then we never had a way of getting in because mum and dad were working. And so then all my friends had jobs. So I ended up getting a job in a cafe, hated it. And then my other mate, he was quitting his job in the butcher shop. So I went, yep, I'll go and the typical go clean up and become the apprentice. So my first day was actually Australia Day. So I got a public holiday for my first day on the job, which I thought, this is great. So then I just cracked on, and I just loved the hustle and bustle, and there was always something to do. And so I just went through that. I got my apprenticeship done, which I was keen to get done. And then it was sort of, well, right, what else is there? And I sort of plateaued for, 2 or 3 years. And I thought, well, there's got to be more out there. And that's when I made that jump to manage a shop in Toowoomba, which I ended up buying. And then once we bought the shop, because we just wanted generational change, like I didn't want my boys to struggle to buy a house, or, you know what I mean? It was just to build the wealth for my generations to come. And and that was sort of and it just opened my world up significantly on what is possible within food, within business. And it's surprising what you can do when you just sell a few pigs a week. It really has been a fantastic industry for us.
Anthony Paharich's influence on the food scene is obvious to many that are in it, but you mentioned the interactions that you've had with him. Do you have any stories of the impacts or moments with him that sort of changed your thinking?
It was actually when we first visited his shop, and he wasn't there, which was unfortunate, but we met I forget what he was, the maitre d' his name was Luke too, and he come in, and they were so welcoming. They're like, hey, come out the back, have a look, this is how we do this is what we do here, what do you do up there, this is why we do this, go down to the seafood fish markets where Vic's Meats is. It was more that, because prior to that, butchering was like, well, these are my secrets, I'm not going to tell you, these are my secrets. It was very secretive. Whereas when we went down to Victor Churchill, it was like, hey, this is the world, this is what you can do, keep in touch. And I've kept in touch with Luke for, shivers, we went down there 7 years ago, and we just keep in touch all the time on how hiring staff, and it has been phenomenal. I've listened to Anthony's podcast, which is great insight on how else to think about business and meat and food and everything. It's and that's probably the biggest influence he's had on me.
Meat Cellar is a stunning butcher. Tell us a bit about that transformation and sort of, the setup and what you've set up there.
So what you see is all my wife, Michelle. She has this uncanny ability to see something before it's actually done. I don't have that. So she did all that, and we wanted to make the customer feel welcome and ease to come into our shops, because a lot of butcher shops, they were cold, they had all these dark colours, and you just thought, whereas Michelle's got these nice light colours, we actually got a branding lady to come up with our brand, and there's a whole branding book, and really worth the money that you had to pay to get that done. But we've just seen phenomenal results ever since changing, making it into the Meat Cellar. People feel welcome. It's bright, it's clean, and it really showcases the meat that you put out on display.
Take us through the process. You mentioned how you get whole pigs in. Can you break down a whole pig for us and sort of, share with us where the different elements go to within your business?
Yeah, so with our business, we literally use 6 cuts. So we've got the legs, which we use them for throughout the year. They're boneless hams, and during Christmas we turn them into the bone-in hams. Belly, you got the belly, which we can't keep up with because that's the new craze, and which is fantastic. And then we do we're very traditional. We've got the loin chops, but out of that non-fillet end of the loin, we actually do steaks and cutlets, which they're becoming a lot more popular. And you can do a lot of things. Like we do a nice Canadian maple pork steak, a herb chili garlic pork cutlet. And there's that a lot of different, and that's the beauty of pork too. It's such a versatile cut. Nothing goes to waste, and you can make hundreds and hundreds of products out of it. And then you have your shoulders. We do a lot of shoulder chops, but we also were seeing that move into people trying that smoking stuff and slow cook stuff. It sort of dies off around Christmas time for us, whereas in wintertime, hell for leather, they love their slow cook collars and smoked Boston butts and all that sort of stuff.
Tell us a little bit about sausages and small goods as well. Do you have a program for that in regards to pork?
Yeah, so we actually do a very, very nice plain pork sausage. We use Australian pork trademark a lot, so there's a few recipes in there, and that's the beauty once again about pork. Such a versatile fat to meat ratio is perfect for making sausages, and the fat in sausages is perfect. So we've got a few varieties. We do a pork cheddar and mustard sausage. We do a pork honey and apple sausage. That's very popular. And we just sort of play around, and we can play around with pork. Small goods, yeah, we do a lot of small. Oh, we don't do a lot, but what we do, we can't really keep up with. So we do your traditional cheese cabanas, plain cabanas, your little beer, twiggy sticks. We do a lot of salamis, pepperonis, ham, bacon, speck, all that sort of jazz. So yeah, it keeps us busy.
Do you have any favourites in those small goods out of the sort of salamis, the pepperonis, that sort of thing? And tell us a bit about the process of one of them.
Look, I used to not like hot stuff. Hot stuff for me would be a mild, a low-grade sweet chili sauce. But I'm actually really warming to our pepperoni. And the bloke that makes it, Tom, he's just this magician with that sort of stuff. It's just how did you get those 6 products to turn into that? So we basically get pork fat, lean pork, and some beef, and mix it in with these magical herbs and spices, and then we just let them hang. So run them out of the filler, and we let them hang for 2 or 3 days just for that curing process to work, to do what it needs to do. And that's what else I love is like I said earlier, is the chemistry, what those natural salts, spices, and everything does to that plain bit of fat. Like what chili will do to beef is totally different to what chili will do to pork, and that's what we've really refined on. How we mix them, how we hang them, how we cook them, how we cool them, and basically the end product that the consumer gets. And sometimes I feel that's not appreciated through the customer, and that's what I'd like to get more out, that this is actually the process of how this pig turned into this salami or how this pig turned into this ham. It just doesn't miraculously turn up on the shelf.
You've credited quite a few other people for various things so far. But tell us about your work environment and the collaborative nature of it. And is it quite different to the butchers you cut your teeth in?
Yeah, very much. Very much. It was, and getting into business, that's what I found out very quickly, that the older butchers thought the younger butchers, you had to earn your right to be a butcher, and which, after getting into business, I actually hated because no one would work together. The young blokes didn't really want to turn up. And like it took us 4 or 5 years being like, it's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that we've really started to hum along with, hey, everyone's on the same. Because we used to, like every other shop would have a manager, but every time I put or gave that person the label of a manager, it just went to their head and they thought they were above everyone else, and it actually made it worse. So now we actually don't label anyone. Like it's literally just, hey, guys, this is your job to do, and we all need to get it done. This is the goal for today. We all need to work together to get that goal done.
What sort of impact has that had on the morale and the environment?
Massive. Like some people didn't like it and they've left. Like, and you've got your natural selection, but it's helped the morale. We've got less sick days. People, like everyone wanted holidays around Christmas, but they're like, oh no, such and such got in for, like, very accommodating with everybody, willing to help out. Like some people start 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and if someone needs to go, like, because we got few workers that have young families, and like if one kid gets sick, another one will go, right, that's all right, I'll cover your shift. You go look after your son. And that's the beauty of, and that's what we want. Like when Michelle and I got into business, it wasn't about, hey, let's become billionaires. It was, how can we help other people become wealthy with us?
Wow. You mentioned that during the year you do boneless hams, and then when it comes into Christmas, the bone-in hams feature heavily. Are they created differently? Can you tell us a bit about that and sort of what's involved in making a ham?
So, very similar process in the way of curing. And this is what we've sort of refined with the German master butcher that down in Sydney. He's just given me a few more techniques to really optimize the end product, plus make it easier or through the process. So basically, the boneless hams, we just bone out a leg of pork, trim out all the glands, all the fat, all the different sinews, and then it gets put through our injector. So everything's injected with a brine. And then boneless hams, we actually tumble them for 12 hours. So that's under a vacuum to bring out the myosin and the other proteins that will help the ham stick and stay together. So all natural and just the natural process. And then it's just put in a net and cooked in the oven, where the bone-in ham, same process, we just don't take the bone out, and it just soaks, instead of going in the tumbler, it'll just soak in the brine for 3 to 4 days. And then it's cooked and smoked over about 15 to 18 hours, depending on the size of the leg.
Tell us a little bit about that Christmas ham. What's important in a Christmas ham, and what sort of side of the fence are you on in regards to eating it straight up or baking it?
In regards to roasting or eating it straight up, I really think it depends on the weather. Like if it's a stinking hot day, there's no way I'm cooking a ham. No way. So I think a lot of people do it, like if you've got family around, and it is a great centerpiece. Like if you get a nice looking ham, well baked, glazed, the smell of a reheat, like a cooked ham on the barbecue or over fire and coals, is just next level. And I think that, but I wouldn't be doing it for people under 10 people. Like there's a lot of effort that needs to go involved in doing that. So I'm either way. Like having it hot, nothing will beat it. But having it cold, like it's just as good. Just as good.
What's the Christmas period time like for you these days? Obviously, hams are important, but what's it like managing that period of time for you?
Oh, and I was looking back. I've been doing it for 20 odd years now, and I think, well, I'm not that old, am I? Um, but like, it has changed significantly. Like, when I started doing it out at Ashton's Butchery in Pittsworth, people would be having orders in at the beginning of November, sort of end of October, ordering ham, and you knew exactly how many you needed to cook, minimal wastage. Whereas now, it's people just go, right, well, come in Christmas Eve, where's your ham? Type thing. It's just this pick and grab and go type. So that's really changed for us. So we try and promote, hey, get your orders in early, but then we do have some left over. And like, November's big for us. So we like to do most of our stuff in November, so we're all ready to go for the December period. And that way we've got 2 or 3 weeks up our sleeve if there's an influx of orders or something happens in the way of, because I know now the big supermarkets, they sort of go, right, well, this is our order, we've run out. And I know that's where another couple of shops in town don't have the facilities to cook their own ham and have to order them in, and they had to have orders in by the start of October or something. So I just don't know how you predict so far in front. So we just like to leave ourselves a couple of weeks leeway, and that's where it's also good having that relationship with the farmer, because you can say, hey, Emily, hey, Catherine, I'm going to need extra pigs this week because we need this many hams, or like, and it's literally phone call, yep, and they're on the truck for your next week's order.
Pork consumption and an understanding of the cookery of pork has changed exponentially in the last sort of 15, 20 years. How have you seen that change? And is it important for you to understand cooking techniques as well in your role?
Yeah, it is, like, and it's to give, and I try and explain this to our apprentices, but it's to give the consumer the confidence to cook it. Like, we can sell them the best pork chop, the best Wagyu rib fillet that would go to Japan. If you don't cook it right, it's not going to turn out right. So it's just about giving that consumer the confidence to say, hey, this is the best way to do it. And it is all experimental. If nobody tried anything, we'd still be eating haggis and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So, and we just go, right, well, this is the best, this is the way I like it. How do you like it? And then you sort of meet, and that's the beauty of it too. Like, you can have that relationship with the customer and say, hey, this is how I cook it, but my wife likes it this way. Like, classic example is we do a pork schnitzel in a parmesan and parsley crumb, and my mother-in-law, like, lovely lady, but very fussy on her food, and I just used to put them schnitzel straight in the oven. And she was up one day and I'd cooked these schnitzels and she was looking at me and half gagging. I'm thinking, is everything all right, Jan? She goes, Luke, your crumbs aren't cooked. I said, what? So then next time, because she stayed a couple of days, so I got another lot, and she said, well, show me how to do it. She said, you need to shallow fry it first to brown your crumbs, and then you put it in the oven. And ever since that day, like, she was totally right. Like, the crumb, if you put it in the oven, it comes out soggy and terrible. Whereas if you brown the crumbs, you've got this beautiful crunchy crumb layer with this moist, soft inside, and it's just those little things like that I think are fantastic.
What sort of impact has that global recognition had for your team with the bacon?
Oh, massive. Like, it has, like, and I can't explain what an impact it's had on our business, our team, the morale, just the team environment. I've gone, hey, we actually do a really good job. We've had people from all over Australia ringing to try and get our bacon, but unfortunately, to send a kilo of bacon to Melbourne costs about $200 and not really worth it. So we're sort of looking for ways to get it distributed nationwide. And like even when we won Best Ham in Australia a few years ago, it was the same thing. We had people ringing from Perth saying, hey, how can I get your ham for Christmas? And I go, well, it's going to cost you a fortune to get it unless you fly over here, pick it up and take it back. It's just trying to find that national distributor to get it everywhere. And I totally understand that it's not viable at this stage, but we're working on it.
Well, you've built an amazing career and incredible business and made such a big impact. But what do you love about what you do?
I love the busyness. Like you constantly got something. Like there's never nothing to do. Like, and that's what I tell all the employees and like even our older guys. And like I got a bloke who's 10 years younger than me, and he knows more than what I know. Like, and you're always learning off someone else. There's always something. Like we've got a lot of meat inspectors that come in, and you say, hey, come around here, look at this, and they go, oh, yep, you need to do this with this, that's that. So it's that sort of, and then also the collaboration with the customer and consumer. Like you get an insight into what they do at home. Like, and not too many professions get to sit at their dinner table. Like basically I know what Mrs. Jones is going to be eating sometime this week, which I find absolutely phenomenal. And also when they come back and say, hey, I cooked it your way, I actually really like it that way, or I cooked it, like just getting that feedback and that, hey, thanks very much for that. And like a lot of people, the funny one I find is when people have parties, they always seem to buy way too much. Like you go, well, hold on, you're not fattening them, we're only got to feed them. So kids don't eat 4 sausages, they only need 2 at max. So then you sort of do that and their budget comes from $200 down to 100 or 120, and they like, and that's building the trust with the customer as well.
Well, Luke, you're an absolute inspiration, and it's an honour to have you on the Crackling today to hear just a part of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you very much.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.